What up, y'all? How's it going? Da-na-na-na. This came from watching Ace Maria hit an intro song. Ace Maria? Ave Maria? I thought you were going to say Ace Ventura. How was the gym today? I didn't go today. I went on Monday, Tuesday. I was just like really sore from Tuesday because it was like a 5x5 on squat. And I don't know what it was, but I also had to take my car over to get some shit done to it. And then I just spent the day with some family. What's up, Alex? Oh, you got the new badge. Hell yeah. The young boy is live. This is true. Is my back feeling better? Yeah, my back feels good. I feel like that's been a while, but, you know, thank you for asking. My shoulder, honestly, was crazy. Like, I'll be 100 with you. Like, my shoulder feels fucking phenomenal. You know, I did finish 2 months of that BPC 157 oral stuff. That in combination with like the myofascial release treatments. And then oddly enough, and this might be kind of strange, but like I was just like digging around in my own shoulder and I found some like, you know, sort of sore areas as I was kind of like going under the tissue. And then I would just take my thumb and hold my thumb directly on that sore spot for like a solid 30 seconds. And at one point I did feel something kind of like shift that felt almost like it was like a muscle releasing. And all of a sudden like the shoulder and the bicep discomfort from like the bicep tendonitis stuff just sort of went away in that moment. And it was kind of weird. Hey, Cacao Farmer. Thank you for a whole year. Says, good day, mate, from Cacao Land in Australia. Hello, hello. Music track artist. That one was Zerovian, Boot Up. But this playlist is called Paul Allen's Mix on Zerovian. Oh, so that must have been his own, which is cool. But he's made a mix of a bunch of other artists. First time catching a live. Yeah, for anybody who's new, we're just chilling here for a little bit, and then we're gonna record tomorrow's video stories. New videos every Monday and Thursday. My sleep is kind of, well, as you know, it's been fucked for a while, but for whatever reason, whenever I got back from dealing with my car and stuff, it was like 4 o'clock or something, 5 o'clock, and I just like laid down in my bed and like passed out for like multiple hours. I'm not even sure why I was so tired, because I feel like I slept a pretty full night, but it just kind of threw me off here for the evening, because I was just like disoriented. So strange. Millie S, welcome back for 17 months. Says, hey Joel, how's your Wednesday night? It's good. I ate some fish. Some fruit. Currently sipping on some diet soda pop. Just when it feels like I need to puke my guts out. Really? Did you drink too much? Had a little too much sippity sip. I had shoulder pain from maxing out. I did dead hang like I was starting a chin up for 6 sets of 1 minute each, and my shoulder pain went away real quick when it was killer. Okay, maybe I'll have to try that. Some dead hangs. He said the dead hang was like starting a chin up. So does that mean you like activated your lats and like glutes and stuff or something? Or I guess if it's a dead hang, you're just hanging there. They're like fish sticks. Oh yeah, baby. Listen to my stories while you pack boxes at Amazon. Yeah, what is that like at Amazon packing boxes? Do you ever just get like the most ridiculous order of like random shit? Like a thing of peanut butter and then a big black dragon dildo or something. And you just like got your headphones in, walking back and forth between the black dragon aisle and the grocery goods. Anyone notice it's cold as fuck right now? Well, it unfortunately is still winter, at least where I'm at. I'm sure even this is where you consider moving to Twitch, or is YouTube better? I would say YouTube is better. I thought about like Twitch. I don't really have a lot of respect for the Twitch platform, but it might be a better way to like find a newer audience, I suppose. Craziest things, had an order with hemorrhoid cream and butt plugs. That's so funny. But I guess that's, hey, nice thing is you never have to know who those people are. Imagine the person that has to go to Walmart, stare the cashier in the eye as the cashier rings up hemorrhoid cream and a butt plug, and they're like, all right, Mary, see you at church. It's music reminiscent of the Powder Puff Girl theme song. That's true. Dun 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 dun. They say Twitch is the new prawn now for chicks advertising OnlyFans content. Yeah, it definitely seems to be the titty meta is the way to go. Get yourself a hot tub and let them hang. But hey, honestly, I don't blame them. If sex is a commodity, which it has been since the dawn of time, great value butt plugs. Hell yeah, dude. They just have like a huge bin, like a huge bargain bin, just like filled with great value butt plugs. That'd be so funny. Someone's just swimming through them. Alex Love, welcome back for 38 months. So much love for you in the channel. I will always be a big supporter. Can't wait for tonight's stream. Thank you, Alex. Really appreciate you. Sounds more like music when Tom can talk about the day being saved. Tom? Who's Tom? Mojo Jojo. Give Pradeep some treats. We shall. He would love some right now. I don't know where he's at though. He was down here. I don't get it. Prawn is free. There's too many simps. Well, that's true too. I don't know if I could like sit and be like too happy trying to talk to like a big titted streamer. I don't know. I just feel like those types of people that sit in front of Twitch watching like a streamer do that, like they have to be the ones that just like sit there completely in the nude with their favorite type of lubrication And, you know, they probably say stuff to themselves prior to gooning their shit, you know what I mean? And that's when you know you made it. That's when you know you made it in life, and you've ascended to a higher being, one that becomes one with their tallywhacker. He's pretty loafing all the time in the cold weather. He's pretty active, surprisingly. Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy. They're asking about you. David De La Rosa with the 1. Thank you. Emerson, what's up, dude? Dark Fantasy by Kanye West intro. That was a good album. I remember listening to that like way late at night when it came out. Bitch, I'm a monster, no good blood sucker. Start the damn stream, we're all here. I guess I could. Sometimes I just like chatting about shit. What should we look into? Anything cool on Reddit? Anything we can like commentate on? What's a good subreddit we can stare at and just give our hot takes on literally nothing? How much cat hair do I have in me right now? I'm like kind of like the Earth. 75%. I'm like a voodoo doll just stuffed with Pradeep's fur. Spoopy crap. r/horror. Alright. Dead subreddit. No, it's actually not too bad. Netflix has terrible horror selection. Psycho Gorman is a great comedy horror. My best friend's girlfriend always watches Shinamiring to help her sleep. Michael Keaton says he wanted Beetlejuice sequel. Hell yeah. To feel handmade, the actor didn't want the long-awaited film to be too technology heavy, and welcomed interacting with fellow actors rather than the screen. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing interesting there. Joel, if you have a fish tank, would you choose tropical or freshwater? I don't know. All of that sounds like a huge pain in the dick. Like, if I get a goldfish at a fair, you know, I can barely keep that shit alive. Let alone something I have to sit there and, like, think about mimicking the ecological environment of, you know, the coasts of Sydney, Australia. That's just not me. r/roast me. Is there something, maybe, I know roast me is kind of visual. I don't know if there was something like, something to just talk about, like news bullshit, but not quite that deep. You have tadpoles, Fry? Do they turn into frogs eventually? You heard there's a Reddit where people were taking half-naked pics of girls, putting clothes back on them. As they should. We should redress the internet. I'm putting money into the blockchain these days. I do, yeah. Just Bitcoin, though. I just take a consistent amount and like put it into Bitcoin every month. And it seems like it's doing well. Gay frogs, to be more specific. Yeah, you gotta breed those in the right water. It's gotta have the appropriate concentration of atrazine. Would you buy the new Apple Vision Pro? I think it's pointless, Mini. Most people will shut down from the exterior world with that. Besides, I read many will use it for fapping. I mean, anything that has to do with getting your rocks off is going to be successful. But I mean, it just looks like a VR helmet, which I find VR things to be really annoying. I probably won't want to get like any sort of like ARG, like Neuralink bullshit until it's like blatantly super convenient, where you can just put on a pair of like Google glasses or whatever and it projects shit, you know what I mean? What's up, Benny? Yeah, we're trying to like change up some new subjects, even though sometimes there's a lot of crossover. Got any plans for once in every 200-year solar eclipse coming up? When's that? Let's look. It's so crazy. I feel like for the past, like literally since 2012, it's been like one celestial event after celestial event. Texas County issues state of emergency over solar eclipse. State of emergency? Really? Is it that bad? Ahead of the Great American Solar Eclipse on April 8th, Bell County issued a local state of emergency, anticipating a significant surge in visitors and strained resources. The county expects its population of 400,000 to double in the days leading up to and after the eclipse, due to our location in the path of totality when the moon completely covers the sun. The county expects traffic... Okay, I thought there was going to give off like some sort of electromagnetic bullshit or something. I have an Oculus my 5-year-old just tried a couple days ago and she loves it. Swims with dolphins. Yeah, my one buddy's son had like a... I think it was an Oculus, and he was playing that like monkey crawling game and some other Beat Saber and shit, and it was honestly great for him because he was like sweating and getting a bunch of activity, and I'm like, well, you know, he might be off in some distant land, but at least he's having a good time. Maple candy's back. Andy's, appreciate you, man. Still a little sick, still a little congested right now. Speaking of which, I should probably blow my nose. Blow my nose out. Like a foolproof method to get rid of congestion forever. Just gotta chop your nose off. When is the eclipse? I missed the day. Alright, friends. Let's just get over there. Get into it a wee bit. It's the best channel on YouTube, baby. Thank you, thank you. Used to swim in the military dolphin tanks. They were brilliant. That sounds sick. It'd be really cool to just like interact with them. Your daughter uses the goggles for physical therapy. She finds it very motivating. She's the world's first adaptive snowboarder. Oh, interesting. That's awesome. Okay, so we got 6 stories about creepy tenants. If you guys can think of like a better title, it's just kind of a tentative one, I guess. A tentative one. But it's just about like landlords dealing with creepy people they rent to. Used to have a Mitsubishi Eclipse. I do remember those. I used to think they were cool when I was younger. They seemed futuristic. I don't know what it is about cars lately. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but like all cars seem like they just seem really homogenized and identical to one another. Like like today I was just with family and while we got food and then whilst waiting for my car to do its fixings, we kind of just began the process of looking at cars just because it's fun to do or whatever. Went to a few different dealerships just to kind of peruse around. Nothing, no biggie, whatever. I don't even really want a new car, or even bother with that. But even ones like that look pretty sick, like the Mercedes stuff, or at least the interior and like what's under the hood, and it's like very safe. The designs of all the newer Mercedes vehicles, they just look so fucking like they look like Fisher Price bullshit, if that makes sense. Like everything just like doesn't, like it just looks like a big tank box that just so happens to be like aerodynamic at the same time. I don't know, and it just makes me not ever want to get a new car because they all just like look the fucking same. I'll just get a Mercedes van, like one of those cruiser vans. Plasticized. Yeah, it does. They do feel like they're covered in plastic. A lot of them had just like this weird matte gray to it, and I was like, these colors are disgusting too. I mean, you can. It seems like Mercedes sticks with like white and black and whatever, just like the monochromatic shit, which is fine. Keep it simple, and the interior stuff looks sick. I just don't understand. It seems like they don't. I don't really know what they're going for external design. It just looks silly. Stories related to Dexter, the TV show? I don't think so. What do you mean? All right. The Mustang. Oh yeah, some of the newer Mustangs. I saw some of the newer like Bronco, like Ford Bronco shit. Like, I don't know. Everything like seems as if though it's designed by the same 4 people, or they're like all trying to copy each other. Some shit. The FJ Cruiser was the first to look like that. It's sad. I don't know if you guys have any cars. I don't know. Do you guys have any dream cars? Am I drinking soda? I am drinking soda, yeah. Diet soda, so it's just eroding my insides. It's Diet Dr. Pepper, 0 sugar. You gotta do it. I've never seen a skinny person drinking diet soda. Alright. Getting started's like the hardest part for some reason. "6 years ago, at the tender age of 29, I became the recipient of my granddad's home after he died. It was very surprising, if I'm being honest, but the story goes that shortly before he died, he had his last will and testament amended so that my parents could get the majority of his money, while I received full ownership of his old Georgian townhouse. I think the idea was that since my parents already owned their own home, passing his house along to me was a way of getting me onto the property ladder nice and early. I appreciated the sentiment back then, and I appreciate it now. I still live in that house, and it's where I'm actually typing this right now. But when I first inherited it, it left me with something of a problem. I wasn't doing all that great financially at the time, and when you're no longer renting, there's no landlord to summon whenever anything goes wrong in your home. I learned very quickly when I was living somewhere above my pay grade, but in addition to taking on extra hours at work and fighting for a promotion, I needed some fast cash. And that, boys and girls, is how I became a very young and very hesitant landlord. It just so happened that the basement of my granddad's old house had some plumbing fixtures, and that, with a little bit of work, it could be turned into a single-bedroom flat. It would be a small one, just a kind of crash pad really, but I'd easily be able to advertise it for about 250 to 300 pounds a month, which would cover all my bills and council tax with a wee bit left over to spare. Doing the place up was a bit of an investment, and I put a bit of the money my granddad's inheritance I put quite a bit of the money my granddad's... Oh, okay. Inheritance? Your dream car is an electric Mini Cooper. You put like a little penny in the back and watch it go. Doing the place up was a bit of an investment, and I put quite a bit of money of my granddad's inheritance into turning it into not just a livable space, but a pretty cozy one too. My philosophy was, if I wouldn't be excited to live there if I was going to... My philosophy was, if I wouldn't be excited to live there if I was a few years younger... Damn. My philosophy was, if I wouldn't be excited to live there if I was a few years younger, then there was no way I was about to ask upwards of $250 a month for it. I wanted a few extra quid, not to become a single property slumlord, and I thought that... Sorry, god damn it, I just can't keep up sometimes with vernacular. Lost in the mood. Thank you for the gifter, too. I guess it'll show up eventually. Worth it all. Thank you, Lost in the Mood. Welcome, Worth It All. You now have access to bonus content. That should be bequest. Bequest bar. What's up, Dark? And Christina Martzel, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. I wanted a few extra quid, not to become some single property I wanted a few extra quid, not to become a single property slumlord, and I thought that a nicer property would attract nicer tenants. I'd like to think that I was right about that too, because my first tenant was this lovely master's student. But then, with all the lockdowns hitting at that point, and as we all know, that changed a lot of people's financial situations dramatically. My lovely master's student had to move out, and it might sound a bit silly, but losing that $250 a month was quite a big hit to my pocketbook. I was home all the time, so my bills went up, and with it being COVID, I just couldn't find anyone to move in, since everyone was basically paralyzed by all the restrictions. Things only started to loosen up again around Christmas time, and by that point, I was absolutely desperate for a tenant. Then, after putting up a round of... Love the Adirondack stories. Thank you, yeah. We actually have some Appalachian Mountain related stories soon coming to YouTube, so stick around for that. Those ones are honestly some of my favorite. Then after putting up a round of fresh ads on various rental websites, I got an application from a guy called Stefan. Stefan wasn't his actual name, but... Oh. Stefan wasn't his actual... Dude, I don't know. I feel like my Nose is fucked up. Stefan wasn't his actual name, but he was a youngish Romanian guy, so I've just picked a random Romanian name to keep it anonymous and for reasons that become obvious as the story progresses. Stefan seemed shy and quite artsy, but aside from that, that's all I really knew about him. A lot of landlords will ask for proof of earnings and from foreign nationals, a copy of their visa and all of that. But me, all I was interested in is if Stefan could pay the deposit and his first month's rent up front. That'd have covered me over the Christmas period, and if I had issues with Stefan afterwards, then so be it. But he paid the next month and the next, and by his fourth or fifth month of living in the basement, I was more than happy to extend his 6-month contract to an indefinite one. I'd zero idea of what Stefan did for a living. All I knew is that he'd traveled into Edinburgh. I forget how to say this. I think it's Edinburgh, but it's spelled stupid. Edinburgh. Do I want to narrate a book you wrote? Probably not, just because I don't really have the time to do much of anything else. Stoned, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. I had zero idea of what Stefan did for a living. All I knew is that he traveled into Edinburgh a lot and he paid the rent on time. Everything else was none of my business. I also have to empathize. just how quiet Stefan was. Half the reason I knew nothing about him was because we never saw each other. Occasionally on the first of the month, he'd just slip an envelope full of cash through my letterbox, and that's the most interacting I do with him for a whole month. I think if he was... I'm just not on tonight at all. Jesus Christ. I didn't think he was actively trying to avoid me. I just thought that was his way. He was out a lot, never played any loud music, and he always paid the rent on time. In many ways, he was a dream tenant. But then around a month It's so weird, the difference between font 12 versus font 13. Font fucking 13 is way too big, and font 12 is way too small. Jasmine Larkin, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Thank you. Too much diet soda. Yeah, maybe I've got aspartame brain. I don't think there's 12.5 on, because I have the email put over into a Google Doc just to make it easier. And yeah, there's just, I don't even know, maybe. Oh wait, there is 12.5. That's weird. Last time it wouldn't let me do it. Sweet. Thank you. He was out a lot, never played any loud music, and he always paid the rent on time. In many ways, he was a dream tenant, but Then around month 7 or 8, so late summer of 2021, I started noticing some increasingly weird things. The first was that Stefan seemed to be getting an awful lot of deliveries to his flat. The entrance to his flat was just outside my living room window, and one morning, I saw a delivery truck at the end of the drive, while Stefan was signing for something in a large cardboard pallet. It looked like IKEA furniture or something, and he caught my eye as he carried it back to his door, but I just gave him a wave and that was that. Another weird thing about Stefan was that whenever we did bump into one another, he sometimes just wouldn't return my greeting. I'd say, "Morning, Stefan," or ask, "You alright, Stefan?" And he'd just look at me in acknowledgement, but never reply. The first few times I just thought that he was a bit shy or something, but then it got to the point where I thought that it might be a kind of language barrier thing. The Scottish accent isn't the easiest to understand, and like I said, I put it down to a bit of communication barrier thing at first. But after a while, I started thinking something was a bit weird about Stefan. I know that he wasn't obligated to talk to me or anything, it's just something that I look back on now and think, yeah, maybe I should have paid a bit more attention to that. But anyway, back to the deliveries, there was a time when he was getting one day, and he'd mostly hang around to sign for them himself, but then one day, something arrived for him and he wasn't there to sign for it. The delivery man then knocks on my door and asks if I'll take care of it for the tenant. I tell him no problem, sign for the item, then I discover it's another large, flat cardboard package, so big that I needed help of the Sarah TR with the Tooth is going to read The Shining and Doctor Sleep this weekend. Oh, cool. That's awesome. That's a lot of reading. Do you have, like, whenever you... I wish I really enjoyed reading. Like, I do it here, but I just don't even do it at all outside of this. I'm just not, I don't know. My brain just can't process. Like, my brain gets, like, tired as I read. And I'm not sure I could just, like, sit down and look at, like, a 1,000-page thing and just be, like, have the mental fortitude to make it through it. What's up, Dark? AKA Lucas. Find a more interesting book. That's true. That is a good point. You know, there are some books that I've started reading and I do enjoy getting through all of it. I like conspiracy books. You know what I mean? Like books about like secret spooky shit. I remember there was a book that I read that was about, I don't even know, just like potential alternate histories to like the origins of like mankind. And then another one was about 9/11, but it was like 9/11 as like a big huge ritual thing, and all of that was really weird. But and I feel like stuff like that kind of captivates me, whether it's true or not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just something about it just, like, tickles my brain hole more. It's 11:09 on a school night. I need to sleep. This guy's great. Heck yeah, get some sleepers. I tell him no problem. Sign for the item, then I discover it's another large, flat cardboard package. So big I needed the help of the delivery guy to get it safely into my hallway without dropping it. I keep it in my house until I see Stefan coming home later on that evening, and I give a shout to let him know that I've got his package. Instead of thanking me or whatever, he looked almost panicked and immediately asked me if I'd opened it in a very accusatory fashion. I was a bit taken aback, telling him no, I hadn't looked into his package, and if I'm being honest, I resented the Fuck. I was taken aback a bit, told him no, I hadn't looked at his package, and if I'm being honest, I resented the accusation a wee bit. I told him as such too, not in an aggressive way, but just to make it clear that I wasn't that kind of landlord or that kind of bloke. And he seemed to calm down after that and mumbled something about the contents being expensive. That was the last time I saw or spoke to Stefan before the incident. But before then, there was one more thing that had my concern mounting prior to that big incident. One day I nipped down to the local high street to get a few pints of milk. It's a short walk, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back, but then as I'm returning with my bottles of milk, I see someone walk into the driveway of my house. It definitely wasn't Stefan, so I sped up my walk a wee bit just to see who it was and what they wanted. When I got to my driveway, I saw this bloke, light-colored jacket and red hair, and he just sort of was staring at my house while walking slowly up the drive. I asked him, "Can I help you?" And he almost jumped out of his skin before turning around to look at me. I was trying to be as friendly as I could, but I was still a bit wary of this bloke, because he's both randomly on my property and he's acting all anxious and nervous, which to me was not a good sign. I started to back off a bit, asking him if we had a problem, and he used the space that I gave him to dart down the driveway and suddenly out of sight. I walked out into the street to try and see where he'd ran off to, but when I looked, he was nowhere to be seen. I called the police, just so that they had something logged. I wasn't overreacting or demanding a visit from any officers. I was just setting them know. I know this is a big build-up to find out what's inside the package. What's in the box? Yeah. Do you listen to scary stories for sleep? How do you get into reading them? I don't listen to them to sleep. I was just, back in the day, whenever I started the channel, started reading, came across creepypastas and was like, oh, this and true scary stories later on is what people want to hear. You just threw up? How come? This story made you too scared. What's up, Dylan? Yeah, he was mad. Check out my package. I wasn't overreacting and demanding a visit from any officers. I was just letting them know in case it happened again, at which point they'd know that it was an ongoing thing and therefore a more urgent situation. Anyway, I get that logged, and then not long after, Stefan comes home, and just on a whim, I decided to tell him about the weird bloke in the driveway, just so he was forewarned if it happened again. I caught him in the driveway, told him about the bloke, and immediately he starts acting a bit cagey. The way I see it, if Stefan didn't know him, he'd have acted as uninterested in me as he usually did. But he didn't. He actually stopped and conversed with me, as much as Stefan was capable of anyway. I started telling him what the guy looked like, and there was this definite look of recognition in his eyes, despite his attempts to hide it. But then I asked if he knew the guy, or if there was anything I needed to know about him. Stefan shook his head and then carried on towards the basement. I was a bit annoyed, to be honest. I could tell that he was lying when he shook his head, but then what was I going to do? Interrogate him? If he didn't want me to tell... How old am I? I'm 33. Bad pot stickers and spending $1,000 on a shitty haircut. Just that combination. $1,000? Holy fuck. Just go to Supercuts. They'll give you a cool little bowl cut. Someone will give you a fade. When did it hit you that you were going to make it? On YouTube? Oh man. I would say it took about 3 years to... Well, at one point, I remember when I first started, it was like all I wanted to do was make enough to pay my rent, you know? And yeah, and I would say about 3 years into it, 3 to 4 years into it is whenever like the True Scary Story niche kind of started to take off, and I was able to kind of get in at the tail end of that, because that, I'll be honest with you, like on YouTube, getting into like a larger trend sometimes has, like, you can start a channel that's on a subgenre that's been around for like a while, but it's tough, you know what I mean? And if you can get in on the ground floor of like a trend or try something new that nobody's done before, you know, you can kind of like pop off from there, and you'll see a lot of copycats too, which then even that indicates that you've done something right. But yeah, I would say, like, I remember because I had that realization about 3 or 4 years into doing YouTube, where I was like, holy shit, I went to school for 3 or 4 years for this, you know, nursing at the time. And I was like, you know, and I was just like, man, I could have just done YouTube 3 or 4 years, you know, around the time of college, you know, potentially found this topic and had the jump on, you know, most people within that subgenre, and had even more success. But, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes timing is the most important thing. But yeah, I don't know. It is weird sometimes, even that concept of like quote unquote making it. Yeah, when I got to play Jimmy Prescott, the Root Rat. Yeah, I don't know if you guys had got to hear that or not, but over on, if you guys are familiar with like Dark Somnium, his it's Dark Somnium, right? Let me check. Let me just make sure. Yeah. Yes. So the channel called The Dark Somnium. I was in his most recent video called Baraska as Jimmy Prescott. And it's not a ton of lines, but he did tell me there's going to be a sequel too that's going to have Jimmy Prescott in it as well. And it was just fun, you know what I mean? It was just fun to play a character that had... I got to basically just use my normal voice, but kind of had a range of emotions within it that I feel like I hit pretty decently, and he was happy with it. And it was cool to just like... And there was a ton of people in it as well who did voice acting, and everyone did fantastic, honestly. You wish you were 3.3 years old. Baraska's your favorite creepypasta. Nice, yeah, you have to go check that out on go subscribe to Dark Somnium too. His videos are always... He puts a lot of effort into the sound design and just the overall immersion of everything. Lovely Tea with the 5 says, thanks for all the new content, Joel. May we be blessed with the sweet sounds of your steel drum. Hit the tum-tum one time for the real ones. All right. Let me get it real quick. Pretty sees me getting it. He's like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Okay. All right. Joel the Musician. This is it right here. Spent years writing that song. It's called Mr. Wigglesworth. You fuck. Mr. Wigglesworth, you fucking shithead. About to make me poop with them. Yeah, that was I specialized honing that song in for years. It's called, developing the brown note. The golden age coming is damn near inexplicable. Is that like an album? What's up, Mary? Can't believe how much I read. I would die if I ever read that much. Yeah, it's way easier, like, reading knowing that there's a purpose to it at the end of the day. Like, I really do wish that my parents had pounded into my head the importance. Well, first off, just taught me how to read at, like, literally age 3 or 4. Just to feel that sense of independence of knowing how to read. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't learn how to read as a kid, and like independently, being able to just like figure out whatever book until like 9 years old. Which is funny that it ended up becoming my job. But I just remember like most of my life in elementary school, especially like when you're young, like just like not knowing, you just like look at words and you're like, what the fuck is that shit? Fucking hieroglyphics, scribbles and scrabbles. I just was so behind. I was so behind on reading. I was so bad at it. Then I caught up, and then you just like, you take off or whatever. But it is embarrassing in the moment, though, whenever like everybody else is fucking tearing through Harry Potter, and you're like, maybe I'll just get Dr. Seuss. We'll just get Dr. Seuss again. You love to read. It's a way of escaping this piece of shit world. Yeah, I wish I was way more into it, and I wish it was like part of my, but I've just always associated negative things with it. Yeah, I was definitely not hooked on phonics. I was hooked on fentanyl. Remember the Jacob guy who donated $500? Yeah, Jacob's, I don't know where he's been, but he's probably off fighting crime somewhere. Couldn't read until age 8 because you went to Read 180. That turned me off. What's Read 180? Oh, it's a reading class. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the best way to do it. I think my friend showed me. My friend showed me like the way he teaches his kids how to read, and they start reading at like age 4 proficiently, and then they immediately dig into like in the entire Harry Potter books, and then it just like grows from there. Is he has like he has like 180, or maybe it's what you're talking about with the 180, but he has a shit ton of flashcards that he has them figure out or whatever. Like he works with them until they like know all the flashcards and how to read those words. And he says some system is, he has some system set up or had picked it up from someone else that like once they know those specific words and how to read them, they can just read whatever else or figure it out at least. What's up, Max? Good to see you. He hits them really hard till they know the flashcards. Yeah. He's got a big whip covered in fire. Got a food baby. That's good. You gotta have like a baby shower. They should have baby showers for food babies. Like whenever you go to take a shit, like a huge shit the next day, they should have a party. Okay, where was I? I was a bit annoyed, but I could tell the... Oh, yeah. I was a bit annoyed, to be honest. I could tell that he was lying when he shook his head, but then again, what was I going to do? Interrogate him? If he didn't want to tell me, he wasn't going to tell me, and the best I could do was make it clear that I'd be calling the police again if there was any unwelcome visits, and that'd be a lot less likely if I knew who he was. I felt like that was me giving Stefan a soft out, so to speak. Just tell me who it is and why he's hanging around, and I'll try not to get him nicked. But again, he just nods and sort of walks off, like he doesn't want to tell me. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't over. I just had a feeling. This guy had come looking for Stefan, and I was almost sure of it. It was just a question of why. He didn't seem dangerous or anything. I wasn't exactly scared. I was just a bit uneasy about some stranger creeping around my property when I wasn't around. Anyways, a few weeks go by and there's no doubt... a few weeks go by and there's no sign of our skittish ginger friend at all, so I start to basically forget his visit ever occurred at all. And Stefan had obviously dealt with the situation because the old ginger bloke hadn't showed up again. And if he hadn't dealt with him, and the ginger visitor had simply lost interest, well, it had all worked out the same way anyway, hadn't it? So then, one Friday evening, I once again nipped down to the pub to see a few old pals of mine. I only went for 1 or 2 pints, as it was a last-minute invite, but then more and more of my old mates started showing up, and so I stayed out later and later until admittedly I was at least two-thirds pished. Oops, sorry, it's pretty... Just coughed in his face. Two-thirds pished. I don't know why that's so funny. Carly, welcome back for 26 months. Says hello, Daddy Joel, and to my Buttersock Cult family. Hello, hello. Thank you. Good to see you. Let's read. You tell me to break up with my girlfriend, and I will. Dylan, you gotta be focused on the gym. You gotta be focused on self-improvement. And if that girl is not making your life better, then I would just call it quits. But if she's a good person and you enjoy being with them, then you should stay with them. Boom. Look at that. We're back to square one. I only went for 1 or 2 pints, as it was a last-minute invite, but then more and more of my old mates started showing up, so I stayed out later and later until, admittedly, I was at least two-thirds pished, and by that time I came to my senses and headed home before closing. Like I said, I'm a bit worse for the wear, so I popped my headphones in, listened to a few tunes on the way back, and I'm almost certain that I was singing along by the time I got to my driveway. In fact, I know that I was singing because I was on exactly the 3rd verse of Glenn Campbell's Southern Nights by the time I got to my living room, took out my earbud things, and then tried to fire the old Bluetooth to my speakers so I could carry on with my one-man karaoke night. But then, in the little window of silence between the song going from my headphones to my speakers, I heard something else that caught my attention. I thought I was going mad at first, so I paused the music and stood there in silence, just straining my eyes until I realized what it was. It was the sound of music coming from the basement. For the first time ever, Stefan was playing music so loud that I could actually hear it. Come to think of it, that was the first time I'd ever heard Stefan do anything at all, and I assumed that he was only playing his music that loud because he thought that I was going to be out all night, which, to be fair, isn't completely out of the ordinary for me. I could hear the sort of bassy thump of his music, some sort of EDM kind of beat, so I thought that he might have been having a sort of party. I didn't have a problem with it, but his wee basement flat didn't even have room to swing a cat, let alone have an actual shindig. I suppose I was feeling a bit sociable, so I walked out into the driveway and peered over the railings to where his little kitchen window was. I know that's a bit of an intrusion, but I was drunk, curious, and honestly wanted to carry on the party a wee bit, so off I went. But when I looked, I couldn't see anyone in Stefan's small kitchen, meaning that it must have been quite a small gathering confined to the bedroom, which was probably the most spacious room in the flat. I was feeling like a right perv by that point, so I took myself off back inside, turned up my own music, and then went into the kitchen to make myself some drunk food. I'm doing my thing in the kitchen, but I'm still thinking about Stefan and his little party going on downstairs. I knew next to nothing about the bloke, and assuming that he wasn't just blasting that music down there on his own, I was happy that he finally had some social life. I definitely didn't want to be the creepy landlord trying to interject myself into his personal life either, so I resigned myself to having one last beer with my food and then headed off to bed. So I microwaved some chicken drumsticks, grabbed a final beer from the fridge, and then watched a bit of trash TV as I'm eating. Then when I'm all done, I wash up, go back to the TV room, and turn everything off. Now once again, I'm standing there in silence, and I can hear that same thump, thump, thump of Stefan's dance music from downstairs. But then that time, it was accompanied by another much less rhythmic noise that sounded an awful lot like something. Fucking shite. 2/3 pitched. Where do you share a story? You can send it to reddit.com/r/let's-read-official, or submit it to where most people do is let's-read-submissions@gmail.com. Got 2 questions. Yeah, sure, Emmy, ask anything you want. Does reading all these stories change your perspective on life in general? If so, how? Not really, honestly. I feel like I feel like I've been pretty aware of the unfortunate fall of the earth and its transgressions to each other, but I don't know, sometimes you feel a little disconnected from it, I suppose, whenever your life is not that dangerous, I suppose. Give you relationship advice, you need guidance? Sure, ask anything you want. It's usually just going to boil down to the exact same thing of, does this person make your life better? If not, if it makes it more of a net negative, then I'd run away. But if it makes it better, then stick with it. Hey, what's up? Audrey, how you doing? And Sam Pie. How old am I? I am 33. It's hard to understand when you've never experienced it. Love your stories. Top 5 YouTubers on my list for sure. Hey, thank you. Talking to a guy, but he's way older than me. Well, yeah, don't do anything that's gonna get someone, obviously, if it's not legal, that's not good, I don't know. You're 18 and you start, oh, okay, well, at least that's good. Well, there's funny, I don't know if you've ever seen, the memes. There's, this one guy, I think his name is, Punchable Face or something, but he has a meme of, the 30... the 30-year-old man-child or something with, dating a 19-year-old girl, and it's just so funny. It's like, where's my Switch? What the fuck? And it's like... He better not spoil, his, I don't know, they have, a kid together or something. He's like, he better not, any spoilers. Yeah, I guess that's a question. How did you meet at 18 and 32? I don't know. Some people get caught up in that kind of stuff. It's, I don't know, like what people would relate on per se, but I mean, like, obviously some people do. Roblox. Oh god, I hope it's not Roblox. Do I do boyfriend ASMR? Is your voice be perfect for it? No, I've never seen it. What is a boyfriend ASMR? Is it like a mean boyfriend? Really? You're gonna wear that out tonight? Getting chased by a young man, we enjoy each other. That's good. Yeah, I mean, if I don't know, just keep it healthy, you know what I mean? Don't let them make you join ISIS. I don't know. Jimmy Prescott ASMR. Yeah, it was kind of funny when I was reading that character. Like, I was reading the lines because I didn't really read the story per se, but then you eventually kind of realize like how much of a piece of shit the character is, and you're like, ah, shit, should I do this character? But I'm like, whatever, fuck it. Don't go chasing waterfalls. What story are we on? I think we're still on story 1 of 6. What are good side hustles since I'm trying to make money the honest way, legal? And what songs do you choose for intros? I love it in the other ones. I've been using a lot of like liquid drum and bass lately for like just compilations, that kind of stuff. But I guess it's just random shit off YouPoop. Side hustles. I mean, I guess Uber. Like Uber Eats and Uber, all that stuff. My one friend does that a lot to make money on the side. But, you know, you could learn how to edit videos and like be a video editor for like a YouTuber or something that needs that kind of stuff, because that does pay pretty well. And as long as you're reliable and get pretty proficient at your stuff, you know, editing. I mean, thumbnails is getting a little bit easier since it's most YouTubers kind of know how to do that stuff. And with like the advent of like AI art, most people like kicking off into the biz sort of are probably going to lean more and more into that as time goes on. Shout out to Faceless. What's up, dude? Do I have any tattoos? Just on my lower back. The law is in place. Yeah, don't do anything bad. Yeah, don't do bad stuff. There you go. That's good advice. Don't do bad things. Your ex is 30 or 24. I'm more mature than him, so I mean, by age doesn't always matter. Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys are kind of in the modern age stuck in sort of a arrested development sort of sense, whatever that might manifest as. But I think a lot of guys struggle with like pride, you know what I mean? Like as far as just always wanting to be in control of everything, not really like compromising to another person's desires, or just in general like having really, really unrealistic expectations of another person. It's just fucking weird. I mean, dating someone really is no different than just being friends with somebody and not being a dickhead, you know? But I've observed many men where they tell me their issue with somebody or why they're out of a relationship now, and I'm like, that sounded very preventable if you just weren't so rude about shit. But I've heard other people, you know, have their heart broken for shit because they just get walked on, which is sad too. Oh, the lower back tattoo. Yeah, it says Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Might be too much of an age gap. You know, if you're feeling that it might be that, then it probably is. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like some sort of online relationship. Because I feel like that's a tough one. Like once you get in person, like does it maintain the energy? Does it suddenly feel really weird? You know, like I don't know. I guess if you're working together or something like that, then you already kind of know what they're like in person or whatever. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened in the world and things have worked. But I just be careful not to get like taken advantage of by someone who may or may not have their life together and just kind of, I don't know, just trying to fill some void or something. I don't feel like I'm kind of taking a guesstimate. What do I think about age gaps? You know, if it works, it works. You know, if people do enjoy each other and they can be respectful to one another, and it's legal, obviously, and not fucking, you know, some sort of power dynamic that causes like pain for one person or the other. It is what it is. But it's definitely a hurdle. I definitely can imagine it be a hurdle for some to figure out, you know, socially. And sometimes relationships, you know, some people aren't just like the other person's like best friend. Sometimes it's more of like a partnership type process to like raise a family or whatever. I don't know. I guess it depends on the culture. What do I think about thigh gaps? I like to drive a motorcycle over them, like Johnny Knoxville. Like a little matchbox motorcycle. Did you ever comment on the stories you read while you're reading them live? Or on the stories that shocked you? Oh yeah, we're constantly giving like live feedback. Thoughts on tooth gaps? Sweet savory succotash. Yeah, date your dad's friends. Exactly. Easy peasy. I do remember like being back in college, like there was a girl that I worked with at the bar, and you know, we were both like 20 or whatever, and there was some guy at one of the adjacent bars that was in his like mid 30s or whatever, who she was like dating, and they lived together and stuff. And I did always hate him. I mean, because me and her were friends, not like romantically or anything like that, but like he was psychotic, you know what I mean? He was just so controlling all the fucking time about stuff, and she clearly had like daddy, you know, issues and all that kind of shit, just because her dad was this, I remember he was like a doctor, like a head doctor, who was just never around ever, you know, never present in her life. But it was unfortunate to like, because you just see that so consistently with those sort of power dynamic relationships where it's like the guy just sort of is just kind of a dickhead all the time, and you're like, this relationship doesn't seem healthy, but she's just all for it for whatever reason. I don't really follow, you know, but at the same time, it's not my, you know, it's not my brain, you know, I'm not the one dating the guy. The audio messed up. Did it cut out? Seems fine. Did I play Final Fantasy? I played some of them. I got 7 for the PS4 and I never played it. I remember I got a PS4 and I had all these plans to play these games, and I just never played it because it's not like conveniently, because I'm spend so much time, if I do entertainment, on the computer. A friend of mine, 25, dating a 45-year-old who cheated on her, but she tried to give me relation advice. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What? Just always like the Beauty and the Beast type thing. You get these beautiful girls who just go after fucking orangutans. But like the orangutan shaman. But he's a little wild too. Do I support LGBTQ? Yeah, people ask that question. I always find it to be really weird because it's like when they say that, they act as if though someone in the LGBTQ community is like part of a hive mind or something. And it's like, no, I mean, you treat each individual. Well, first I want to just say that I don't give a shit what if you're sucking wieners or vaginas or anything in between. I just don't give a fuck. You know, it's none of my business. It's your business. You do your thing. But it's like each individual that you interact with, no matter what their sexual orientation, is still an individual at the end of the day. Whether they're, you know, and there's dickheads in every, you know, group of people, and there's usually nice people in most groups of people, on the majority. But it's just such a weird question because it's like, you know, because I have gay friends who like they get so fucking sick of like being lumped into particular just groups, you know, like assigned this thing as if though you are a part of it, and they just like roll their eyes because they're just, you know, beyond the whole associating yourself with some sort of like specific identity, for when in reality you're an individual. Like you can be a jerk, you can be a really nice person, you can be all these things, and it doesn't matter if you like wiener in your butt or, you know, getting your face rode, like all of that. Who cares? I don't want to hear about, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear about anybody's sex stuff at all. I just want to know if you're a nice individual. This is silly. And like, you know, but also that too, it's like to make sex like your overriding thing that, you know, personality that you got to tell about people. I feel like that is where people lack personality or something. I'm like, what about your accomplishments? What about, are you a good writer? Are you a good, you know what I mean, like musician? Are you, you know, like, I don't want to hear about your sexcapades in any capacity, you know, straight or non, you know. It's just silly. That's the thing. Everybody wants like a simple, straight answer. And the simple, straight answer is yes, I do support people. I support human beings, you know. But I think just the question itself oftentimes is just like, it's too simplified in and of itself. It's an entrapment question. Yeah, I mean, I don't really... I understand. I mean, I don't think they were asking it in because they seemed, every other question they've asked has been very nice. And Emmy, you seem like a very nice person. I know you weren't asking it for entrapment or anything like that. I just wanted to give more of a fleshed out answer. Fleshlight answer. That's the point when I had this... Wait, where the fuck am I? I'm still on story 1. Once again, there's... Oh, yeah. No, you don't have to leave, Emmy. I'm sorry if that seemed... No one was trying to be rude or anything. And honestly, I think some of my answer wasn't directed at you. It was directed at just like seeing, like just the more generalized concept overall. But then, that time, it was accompanied by another much less rhythmic noise that sounded an awful lot like someone shouting. It was one voice, that much was clear, but after kneeling down and putting my ear closer to the floorboards, I realized that it sounded more like screaming. And that's the point when I had this real uh-oh kind of moment, one that was probably slowed down from how smashed I still was. But it eventually dawned on me. That I had to go down to Stefan's flat and see if everything was okay, because whoever was screaming down there was obviously in a huge amount of distress, and they weren't shutting up anytime soon. I ran outside, rushed down the stairs to Stefan's flat, and then when I listened, I could still hear the screaming. I knew it was urgent, seriously urgent, so I started calling out, "Stefan, I'm going to break in, hang on." And then, that's what I did. I kicked at his door over and over again, nearly going arse over tit a few times, but I got that door open. The man was still screaming when the floor... Dude, I got like dyslexia tonight. It is fucking bad. That's what diet soda does to your brain. It gives you... makes you not read good. What the fuck? I ran outside, rushed downstairs, to the flat. The man was... okay. The man was still screaming when the door flew open, and that music was still going too, but I could barely hear it at all. I was that fixated on those horrible screams. There was no one in Stefan's wee kitchen and dining area, so the only place left to look was the bedroom, which was also where the music and the screams were coming from. So I rushed towards the bedroom, peered around the threshold, and the first thing that drew my attention was the man who was screaming. He was sitting with his back against the bedroom wall, knees pulled up to his chest, and... holy shit, what the fuck are we about to get here? He was sitting with his back against the bedroom wall, knees pulled up to his chest, and I didn't see it at first, but he was attached to the wall by something that was around his neck. It was short, keeping him low and close to the wall, basically forcing him into the position that he was in, and when he saw me, we locked eyes. For the briefest of moments, something about his eyes seemed oddly similar to me, and then once again, all I could hear were those screams. After he'd spotted me, instead of just wordless screaming, he started begging me in these screeches to get it off. Get it off me, please get it off me. I would have done it too, I really would have. I had no idea what was going on, but I was terrified for the bloke right up until I saw Stefan on the other side of the room. He was lying there, not a stitch of clothing on him, with more blood than I've ever seen in my life pooled around underneath, and the handle of what I assumed was a knife sticking out of his stomach. So much blood was soaked into the carpet that it looked thick like mud, and his eyes were wide open. I mean wide open, like he'd passed out with this shocked look on his face. In an instant, the screaming man's plea to get it off of him wasn't nearly so appealing anymore. I assumed that if I did get that neck restraint thing off of him, he was going to do to me what he'd just done to Stefan, and as you can imagine, I didn't fancy that at all. So instead of doing what he was begging me to do, I just bolted out of the flat, up the stairs, and back into my house before calling the police. Then, while I was on the phone with them, I realized why the screaming man had seemed so oddly familiar to me. It was the ginger guy I'd seen walking up my driveway a few weeks prior. It had to be him, I was sure of it, and I've never had that confirmed, but I'm bloody sure that it was him. Anyway, I was up in my house, basically screaming down the phone to 999 to get police and paramedics out to me as fast as they possibly could. I didn't know if Stefan was actually dead or not. He bloody well looked like it, but I know paramedics can work wonders if they get to a person in time, so I made it clear how urgently they were needed. There are two things from that phone call that really stuck with me. The first was that the operator stayed so calm throughout the whole thing to the point that it sounded really bizarre to me. For example, I remember telling her, "There's someone tied up down there. There's something around his neck," and she repeated in the most monotone voice, "There's someone tied up. Is there? Okay. Is the injured person still breathing?" She said it back to me like it was nothing, like it was the most boring thing she'd ever heard. Then she went right back to her job of assessing the situation at hand. I know she was just doing her job and that it speaks volumes of how unflappably brave our 999 operators are, but in the moment, it made me a little bit angry. It also made me angry that she asked me to go back downstairs to another look. Oops. I know, read good. This is true. Pizza party gone wrong, yeah. The last thing in the world I wanted to do was go back down there to see all this. Wait. It also made me angry that she asked me to go back downstairs to take another look at Stefan. The last thing in the world I wanted to do was go back down there to see all those things and hear that guy's screams again. I kept telling her, no way, I'm not going back down there, mainly because I'm still very much under the impression that the ginger bloke down in the basement was the one who stabbed Stefan. Only when I made it clear that it was dangerous down there, potentially anyway, did the operator relent, and she told me to wait in a safe area inside my house until the police showed up. By that time, I couldn't hear any more screaming coming from downstairs, but I could still hear the music, and God help me, I wish I'd turned it off when I had the chance to. The police turned up quite quickly. It felt like a lot longer than it actually was, but to their credit, they only took around 10 minutes to get out to me. I directed them down into the basement flat, and they made sure the guy who had been screaming was safe but secured. Then the paramedics arrived not long after to do what they could, but it was too late for Stefan. I actually thought that he might have had a chance at the time because none of the paramedics mentioned anything about him being dead, and they still looked like they were trying to save his life when they put him in the back of the ambulance. It was only later when some police officers told me a murder investigation had been opened, and that's when it really sunk in that Stefan was gone. The flat downstairs went from being a nice little earner to being an active crime scene for about 10 days afterwards. The police had the whole circus out for... Shit, excuse me. Why did I name my channel Let's Read? Yeah, it was... Oh yeah, I see Alex said... Yeah, thank you, Alex. Yeah, it was just a play on words based on, like, Let's Plays, because those, this was 2014 when I started it, so those were still very much kind of, like, in full swing with the PewDiePie days, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading, but I'm, Let's Read is Let's Smoke. Yeah. 2014, that long ago? Yeah, it's been, I think in August this year it will be 10 years, which is freaking bonkers. Eight in the morning in Norway, haven't slept anything. Damn. How are you doing with going down to 2 days a week? Yeah, surprisingly, and I don't even know how. So like the channel's been at like 4.7 million views per month for like a decent while now. And when I went down to 2 videos a week, the views also switched, or not switched, but they stayed at 4.7 million views a month. And it just like it kind of like upticked a little bit to like 4.8 and at one point 4.9, but it's pretty consistently stayed at like 4.7. And yeah, I'm like, all right, that's sweet. More people get to see like individual videos, and the videos still seem to perform really well. YouTube has many dark secrets. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Sometimes it kind of makes me think like, is my channel just kind of like relegated to that many views and that's it, you know? Which I guess I wouldn't have an issue with if it was just like I get my mandated government allotted amount of views from YouTube every month. The CIA keeps me at bay, you know, from going crazy. This is their little present to me. And that's it. The YouTube algo changed a lot. Yeah, I think in 2014 was like the heydays of daily uploads. Didn't like PewDiePie used to upload like twice a day at one point? That's just crazy to me. Like early upload, later upload, early, you know, like I would go fucking bonkers. The police had the whole circus out. Forensics, CID, social workers. They were in and out at all hours, and that was all after extensive interviews with me, and I'm assuming interviews with that ginger guy too. They also took away all the weird contraptions in Stefan's bedroom, which is something I should have mentioned earlier. There were all these things, like exercise equipment, but it looked more like something you'd use to torture someone. I'm assuming that's what was going on anyway. Some kind of party or game that went wrong. And I'm also assuming that's what Stefan was having delivered all that summer. It certainly explained why he didn't want me to see what was inside his packages. Obviously, I mentioned all this to the police during the interviews, and I kept in touch with the 2 detectives who were responsible for working on the case. And that's how I found out that he was probably going to get off with manslaughter, and that's if the CPS even brought charges against him at all. According to the man himself, the ginger bloke I mean, they'd been playing a kind of game when Stefan had produced a knife out of nowhere. He was restrained and terrified, but his legs were free, so he kicked out at Stefan, who went tumbling back, and he fell on his own knife, he said. The CID guy I spoke to said that the story matched the crime scene, and it's not like the guy could have arranged it that way, considering he was basically bolted to the wall. It sounded like an open and shut self-defense thing to me, but then apparently it all depended on what the prosecution service said, and obviously I wasn't privy to that decision or what happened to the Oh, first time chatter. Welcome, welcome. What's up, Finksy? Pretty just ascending my computer chair. Hey, see you, Emmy. Have a good night. The CID guy I spoke to said the story... Okay. The CID guy I spoke to said the story matched the crime scene, and it's not like the guy could have arranged it that way, considering he was basically bolted to the wall. It sounded like an open and shut self-defense thing to me, but then apparently it all depended on what the prosecution service said. And obviously I wasn't privy to that decision or what happened to the ginger guy in the end. I also have no idea what happened to Stefan's body, if it was taken back to Romania or if he had family there to receive it. The only time I asked, the detective told me that he had no idea, and how all that was down to the Foreign Office and had nothing to do with the police. The last time I spoke to the detective was the last time I heard anything about Stefan's death, and now I'm left being the owner of a home in which someone has been murdered. I'm not proud of it, and I certainly don't advise... Oh, I said certainly don't advise it. I'm not proud of it, and I certainly don't advertise it. And I don't believe in ghosts, but some of my tenants might, and that's half the reason I'm not putting any major details into this. The story managed to stay out of local... The story managed to stay out of any sort of wider press, and I don't fancy drawing any more attention to the incident. The story managed to stay out of any wider press, and I don't fancy drawing any more attention to the incident than I already have with this account of it. People say sometimes I sound like I feel sorry for Stefan, which I suppose sounds crazy if it really was about the murder of the wee ginger guy, slaughterhouse style, right there in my basement. But if I'm being honest, I do think it was just like a weird roleplay thing that went horribly, horribly wrong. Or maybe that's just what I tell myself, so that I don't consider myself... Or maybe that's just what I tell myself, so I don't consider myself in any sort of danger for all that time, with a wannabe Jeffrey Dahmer living right beneath my feet. Appreciate my pronunciation. Thanks. Try to. I was talking to this person who's been in Australia, and they were calling Melbourne, and I was like, man, I got reamed out so hard in the comment sections for saying it that way, and you're like the Australian specialist. One down, 48 hours to go. What's the longest that you streamed continuously and took forever to get through the stories? I don't know. I remember on one of my birthdays, I streamed for 8 hours. That was nuts. And it didn't feel like it, though. I had a lot of stories to read that really only ever amounted to an hour in some stories. Give my cat a treat. I don't have any on me. My cat can have a Zin. Pradeep, you want a Zin? One for you. He just puts it in his lip. All right. Upper decky for the cat. What kind of cat is he? He is black. Dark as midnight. With 7 lucky white hairs on his chest. Gotta know what type of Zins I prefer. Honestly, I don't get them that often. The ones I have right now are menthol. But my friend got me using them initially because we would go on walks and talk and stuff, and he was like, "Want a Zin?" I was like, "Sure, I'll take one of those little thingamajigs." What's the worst that can happen? What's a Zin? It's just like a nicotine pouch. I really don't use them, and I'm not addicted to them or anything, but once in a while, if I go on a little W, I'll throw it in. You love the name Pradeep so much, thanks. Yeah, he's a sweet boy. Sweet boy. Alright. Story numero 2. Back in the late 80s, around the time my first son was born, I used to work for quite a large property management company in Seattle. We managed about 100 to 150 apartments and rental homes at any one time, and my team was charged with scheduling and carrying out viewings for potential tenants. I had quite a large team under me, and we were very close-knit, which made what happened in the fall of '89 that much harder to bear. I worked with a team of very talented young men and women, but perhaps one of the brightest I ever worked with was a young lady named Vicky. Vicky was by far the best talent we had on staff during the fall of '89. She could close almost anything. I used to put her on viewings of a place we'd been having trouble filling, and within a few days, Vicky had us a tenant. The same applied to the more highbrow properties too, where an empty unit meant thousands in lost revenue every month. I'd put Vicky on it, and then lo and behold, we'd have a tenant within weeks, sometimes days if the market was right. So, when I got a call regarding one of our 6-figure executive apartments in one of the new high-rises downtown, I knew Vicky was the right girl for the job. The place was probably one of the most expensive properties in our portfolio, and it had been empty for almost 3 months at the time, so filling it would be a huge win for both my team and the company as a whole. So on the day of the viewing, I gave Vicky a call in the morning to make sure the appointment was still scheduled, then wished her the very best of luck. Not that she needed it, but I always found it best to create as positive an environment as possible, especially when it came to sales prospects. When after Hogenscheit. Oh, Hawk, you smoke blunts. I didn't even know you down with that, bro. Allegedly. Not that she needed it, but I always found it best to create as positive an environment as possible, especially when it came to sales prospects. Then after hanging up the phone, I simply waited until the early afternoon to hear back from her on how it went. The viewing was scheduled for 1:15 p.m., so I expected it to be over at around 1:40 to 1:45 at the latest. After that, it was a short trip back to the office, and we'd find out if she'd sealed the deal or not. But then, 2 p.m. comes and goes, and there's no sign of Vicky. Then 2:30 comes and goes, and there's still no sign of her. We go from excited to hear from her to impatient to downright worried, so we tried calling her at home, but there was no answer. Eventually, it came to the end of office hours, and we still hadn't heard from Vicky, so I assured the girls that I'd keep on calling her out of office hours and that I'd let them know what I'd uncovered as soon as I uncovered it. I know that might seem like something of an overreaction, but it was so completely unlike Vicky to just go AWOL like that, and we just knew something had to be wrong. So I got home, and I kept on calling Vicky's home address every half hour or so. I must have left like 3 different messages on her machine, just asking her to call me back, when my phone finally rang at around 10 that night. I picked up, fighting off the urge to ask Vicky as soon as I did, but I might as well have asked her name because it was her, and the sense of relief that I felt at first was gigantic. I'd gotten it into my head that she'd been hit by some kind of medical emergency, so just to hear her voice and for her to tell me that she was fine was a huge relief. But then I could hear in her voice that she was not fine. She just meant that she was okay physically. Mentally, on the other hand, that was clearly a different thing entirely. I remember telling her that she didn't have to tell me what happened. I just needed to know how long she needed to recover. But I also said that if she did want to tell me what happened, if she wanted to tell me something, I could pass it on to the rest of the team, then I was okay with that too. And she told me everything. How she'd been talking to the police for the last few hours, how she felt like she was needing a few days off, but no more than that. I sound so healthy tonight. That's good. Yeah, I've been sleeping a lot. Thoughts on Mr. Nightmare? Cool guy, I guess, you know? I don't know him. But I did find this one channel. It's kind of random. But it just goes to show you. Let me see if I can find them. It's like, it's crazy that like some channels are like so low key. Some channels are like so low key that they succeed without you even knowing that they did. It's this one called Chilling Scares, and I think I may have actually touched base on this channel before, but I like randomly saw it pop back up, and he's like close to 1 million subscribers, but his thumbnail style and like presentation and like length of videos are like almost identical to like Mr. Nightmare's, which is fine, you know, like imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and I'm sure he was very inspired by Mr. Nightmare to then emulate the channel. But it's just crazy to think that like his emulation of said channel led to a tremendous amount of success. That's crazy, dude. That actually blows my mind. So 8 days ago was the last video. And then, yeah, 2 weeks before that, a month. Like, there's just, like, such... Like, this is how you do it. This is how you do YouTube. If you guys, like, want to, like... I don't know. Make quick success without, like, a ton of effort. Because his channel is getting, like, 8.5 million views a month. Which is 3 million more than me. And he gets, like... 1,000 new subscribers, close to 2,000 every day, but then putting out videos almost every 2 weeks to a month. You think Chilling Scares is an AI channel? I don't have proof, but I seriously believe that. I did listen to him earlier, and it did kind of seem a little AI-esque, but there was like also something in his voice that didn't have the AI tone to it. It felt natural, but it's hard to prove that stuff. But yeah, you know, I guess it should be like, basically what I'm trying to say is like, if you guys ever want to do YouTube, just take an example from like, if you see someone who's having success within your genre, try to copy them, not like steal their content or anything like that or plagiarize anything, but just like copy their riz, you know. And honestly, like sometimes it seems like on YouTube, like upload schedule is important too. If you can like establish that you're only ever going to upload maybe once every 2 weeks or whatever, sometimes it seems like the algorithm just like favors that kind of shit. You'd be bummed if Let's Read only posted monthly. I probably would be too, honestly. Like if someone told me I could post monthly and get 8.2 million views on a video or on the channel monthly, I probably wouldn't even do that, because sometimes you have to fill your time with something, you know. Sediment, yeah, you should, if you did clone my voice, you should make some funny stuff and tag me in it, because I do want to hear how good it is. Monthly content edging. AA Ron with the 5 says, I thought I missed a lot, but we're only on story 2, huh? Will you keep me entertained for a while? Keep with the great content, Mr. Big Daddy J. Thank you, AA Ron. Good to see ya. Appreciate you. Alright. I know. I would miss interacting with chat, honestly. I don't know. Like, lately, I would say it's such a weird thing, like, psychologically. Like, I'm very thankful that YouTube took off in my life and stuff, but, like, there is something really weird about, like, not attaining financial security from, like, typical job format and, like, consistently interacting with people from there. That is very socially isolating in the world of YouTube. Now, granted, you know, you get more free time, but I feel like having reached my 30s, I don't know. I feel like I gotta get, like, real creative with my life real soon, or I'm gonna go insane. She told me, oh yeah. She told me everything. How she'd been talking to the police for the last few hours. How she felt like she needed a few days off, but no more than that. But most importantly, she told me the reason she talked to the cops and the reason she needed those days off to recover. And it all started with that afternoon viewing. We were all expecting some kind of high roller to show up to the viewing, as, like I'd already mentioned, the apartment in question was priced at thousands of dollars per month. So when a very average-looking Joe showed up and introduced himself as the prospective tenant, Vicky said that she was a little taken aback. Obviously, you can never judge a book by its cover, especially when it comes to real estate. I've known a lot of very healthy buyers to dress like crap, and so had Vicky, so she knew to turn on the charm all the same and give him the 5-star treatment she'd give someone in a 3-piece Brioni. The man was unshaven, wearing an all-waterproof jacket, faded jeans, and dirty sneakers. But Vicky said that he greeted her very confidently and purposefully, and so she simply continued with the viewing as usual. The apartment in question was 1 or 2 above the 20th floor. It was either the 21st or 22nd, I can't quite remember, but Vicky takes him up there and makes a little small talk along the way. The guy said he worked in computers, which actually made a lot of sense, and would have made a whole lot of sense just about any property manager or realtor at the... Wait, what? Hey, Ron, are you going to stream on your B-Day? It's a Tuesday. Yeah, I might do that. I don't know if I'm going to drink this year, though. Just because... 3-piece bologna. Yeah. I don't know if I'll drink this year, though, just because last time it did not work out. Maybe I'll just eat an edible or something and hope for the best. Any personal scary stories? Not... I can't quite remember any right now. Alright, the guy said he worked in computers, which actually made a whole lot of sense, and would have made a whole lot of sense to just about any property manager or realtor at the time. About 10 years prior, 2 computer nerds moved from New Mexico to Seattle and established a little company known as Microsoft. And 10 years later, Seattle was practically flooded with all kinds of computer types, and a fair share of them had a big old chunk of change in their pocket once the companies started to really take off. I'm telling you this to make it clear that by the time they got to the apartment, whatever reservations Vicky had about the man's style of dress had completely dissipated, as they would have done if they were me. as they would have done if that were me doing the instead of her. As they would have done if that were me doing the tour instead. They got to the apartment, and the guy's asking her a lot of financial questions. What are the monthly utilities estimated to be? Does the company offer a rent-to-buy program, and if so, what kind of time scale and value projections would he be looking at? Vicky trying her best to keep up with the guy, but he clearly knew what he was talking about. She couldn't just dazzle him with the kitchen island or the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. He wanted cold, hard figures. So, Vicky being Vicky, she sets about giving them to him, and where she can't, she just gives estimates that are both optimistic and enticing as possible. But then all the same, the guy starts checking out the big floor-to-ceiling windows and gazing out over what was potentially his own personal vista of Seattle. Vicky said that she asked him if he liked the view, and he replied by asking if the windows opened. Vicky then explained that they did, via a hinge on the other side of the large pane center. You can open all 4 windows at any one time, with the bottom leaning towards you and the top leaning away. The fixtures were very strong, and the glass was tampered and shatterproof. The fixtures were very strong, and the glass was tempered and shatterproof, and it meant the apartment was pretty much off limits to anyone with small children. A person could also quite easily squeeze themselves through the small gap if they really, really wanted to, but then who would ever do such a thing? Vicky mentioned almost all of that to the viewer, who replied that he didn't have any children, so the windows wouldn't be an issue. But then he looks at Vicky with this sort of sly smile and says, "But someone as small as you could fit under there pretty easy, right?" Vicky said she thought it was a poor attempt at humor, so she returned a polite laugh and made a comment about how she'd never be in that situation. And I'm with her in that. If those windows were open, I'd always keep 10 feet away at all times. I'm a real fraidy cat when it comes to heights, you see, and I'm about 250 pound... She's like, "I can," and she just jumps out the window. Joel, save me. Save you from what? The boogeyman. I'm a real fraidy cat. I'm a real fraidy cat when it comes to heights, you see, and I'm a 250-pound lump that'd have to run a couple of marathons before being able to even fit through that gap. But then, in response to Vicky's comment about never being in that position, the man replied, "But what if someone forced you into that position?" Vicky was a gem, but she was no pushover, so she politely informed the viewer that she didn't appreciate his style of humor, and would be grateful if he refrained from making such jokes. But he starts telling her, oh, it's not a joke, and that if he really wanted to, he could force her down and shove her through the gap, sending her hurtling down hundreds of feet onto the concrete below. Vicky said that she felt her blood run cold, not just at what he'd said, but because of the way he said it too. He didn't say it with this deadpan expression. He said it like it was the most amusing idea that he'd had in a while, and I guess it assumed him so much. Oh, amused him. Samuel Rusden with the 5 New Zealand bucks says, "When I send 5 New Zealand dollars, you receive the exact amount, or does YouTube take a cut? I love your work, by the way." YouTube does take a cut of that, yeah. And the best way to avoid a YouTube cut is to do it through, there's another option in the description, Streamlabs. That also goes through. Spaghetti or meatballs? What about both? Can you do both? No, sir, I'm sorry. You have to choose one or the other. Giovanna, what's going on? He didn't say it with this deadpan expression. He said it like it was the most amusing idea that he had in a while, and I guess it amused him so much because it put the fear of God into Vicky. She said she started backing up away from him, and instinctually looked over towards the door, but that only prompted the viewer to close the gap between them and assure her that any attempt to escape would be useless. Vicky reminded the guy that we had his name and contact details, but this only caused him to erupt into laughter. He asked if she really thought that he was that stupid, that he'd use his real name to book a viewing where he planned on murdering the realtor. Then, upon seeing the expression on her face, the guy started laughing and insulting her, calling her a stupid bee, and saying how she was so much dumber than she looked. Vicky said that was the point that she got really scared. She said she'd raised her foot, took off her heel, and then kicked off the other before brandishing the first. She said she raised her foot, took off her heel, then kicked off the other before brandishing the first as a weapon. She kept on backing up, ready to at least to try and defend herself. But this time, the guy didn't try and follow her. He just kept on laughing, even harder too when he saw how afraid she was. Vicky hadn't been in that apartment before, and she'd already made a note of where the bedroom and bathroom were. So she knew that with each step that she took away from the viewer meant that she was one step closer to being able to lock herself in the bathroom. And so that's what she did. She kept on treading backwards, telling him that he'd crack his head open if he tried to rush her. Luckily, that had the guy doubled over laughing, but Vicky said that she got this surge of adrenaline and knew that it was her moment to make a run for it. If she tried to go for the front door, there's no doubt that he'd catch her, as, like I've already mentioned, it was a very spacious apartment. But on the other hand, if Vicky rushed for the bedroom and its ensuite bathroom with a thick lockable door, the guy would need superhuman speed to catch up with her in time. And that's what she did. She turned and ran to the bedroom and slammed the bathroom door behind her before turning the lock. She said that there was the obvious sense of relief from knowing that she had a nice thick door and a lock between her and that psycho. But then seconds later, something awful dawned on her, something the guy was so acutely aware of. He started mocking her again, laughing and saying things like, "You've trapped yourself. I can't wait out here all night." If this was a time when cell phones were common, this would have been a If this was a time when cell phones were common, this wouldn't have been a problem. But all Vicky had was a simple beeper, or pager as they were sometimes known, which could only receive messages, not send them. Vicky said the guy knew this and kept on taunting her for the better part of half an hour before things finally went silent. She then thought that it might have been safe to leave, and she slowly turned the lock on the bathroom door before opening slightly and peeking out to see if the guy was gone. He wasn't. He was just sitting on the little kitchen island in complete silence, staring at the bathroom door. He'd been waiting for her to come out. He didn't even rush to grab the door or anything either. Vicky just said that he'd started laughing again, saying that he didn't have to rush, that he'd wait there all night if he needed to. She had to stay inside that locked bathroom for hours and hours before she finally felt safe enough to come out, and even then, she was completely gripped by the fear that the guy was lurking somewhere, waiting for her to come out. She walked back to the elevator with her high heel in hand, still hoping to use it as a weapon to defend herself. Then when she got down to the lobby, she burst into tears when the attendant asked her if everything was okay. And that's when the cops were informed, and Vicky said that they got to the building at around 5:30, which was the exact same time that we'd be leaving the office, still worried about her. It made me sick thinking that for the brief time that we'd been mildly frustrated with her supported anime villain monologue. Yeah, I know. You really think that I can't just wait here all night for you? Oh, fool. Fool. Oh, silly girl. That's when the cops were... Okay. That's when the cops were informed, and Vicky said they got to the building at around 5:30, which was the exact time that we'd been leaving the office. Still worried about her. It made me sink. It made me sick thinking that, for that brief time when we'd been mildly frustrated with her supposed tardiness, she'd been trapped in the bathroom by some complete psycho whose idea of fun was scaring the hell out of some poor innocent young woman. Then by the time we realized something was wrong, it could have been far, far too late. Vicky said to me that she told the cops this too, and she Damn. The devil question? Oh, yeah. The devil from Powderpuff Girls. Let me listen to his voice real quick. Wait, let's go back. I think I like the classic one better. Him. Alright, let's get to it. Yes! I love it when you girls fight. I think you should fight more often. You don't say. No, not today. Yeah, alright. I don't know, I can't find any good monologues from him, but... That sounds about right, doesn't it, Blossom? Blossom. Bubbles. Alright. Anyways, here we go. Vicky said to me, she told the cops, Vicky said to me, and she told the cops this too, that she really did think that's all he was interested in doing. I mean, if he really wanted to, and he might have taken a few hits from that high heel before it happened, but that guy could have overpowered her, opened up that window and shoved her out. Or not even that. He could have just attacked her when she wasn't expecting it, and she might never have left that apartment alive. But that's just the thing. He didn't. He liked the idea that she was afraid. That's what made him laugh so hard. That's what got him off. I can't imagine how harrowing of an experience that was for poor Vicky, but incredibly, she was back to work in just a few days. She said she realized that if his whole thing was to make her afraid, then cowering at home would be exactly what he wanted her to do. Her only frustration was that the cops never caught up with the guy. He would have only been charged with harassment and issued deadly threats or something, and probably wouldn't have gotten away with... He would have only been charged with harassment and maybe issuing a deadly threat or something, and probably wouldn't have just... And probably would have just gotten away with a misdemeanor. But still, it would have been some small amount of justice for all the terror that he put Vicky through. To me, it's frustrating to know that people like that exist in the first place. I can't even imagine how sick in the head a person has to be able to list tricking and terrorizing random women as one of their hobbies. Wait, what? That's in my Tinder profile. I like to trick and terrorize random women on the streets. I can't even imagine how sick in the head a person has to be able to list tricking and terrorizing random women as one of their hobbies. I just hope karma caught up to him one day, and it caught up to him hard. It's a nice thick door. Oh my god, that was only story 2. Fuck me. Is this anime? Yeah. Sing a song. Sing us a song, piano man. Sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for some anime. And I haven't changed my underwear. All right. Story 3. Hey, Lost in the Mood with 10 big ones says, I tried listening to other podcasts or channels or scary stories, but their voices just don't sound close to yours, and I can't find them interesting. I'm so happy I stumbled on your channel. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We have conditioned you, and you will never be leaving, ever, again. My whole world flipped on me in less than a month. Nothing will ever be the same. Though I speak Spanish, I can pretend. Hola! Swiper, no swiping. Am I familiar with the Strokes? Oh yeah, Strokes are good. You've heard of the Strokes. What about the Struts? Did I play Elden Ring? I did see that the Elden Ring like DLC or like a sequel was coming out in June. I don't really like Dark Soul type games, but I like their worlds and the art and all that kind of stuff. Before I officially started up my business, I used to work as like a general handyman, and on a very casual basis too. I was fresh out of the county and determined to turn myself around, but I barely had 2 cents to my name, so I just started hustling with whatever I could get my hands on. And about 6 months after, I had my own van, my own tools, and I had everything except a contractor's license, but that sure as hell didn't stop me from building my business and growing my revenue. And about a year later, I was basically working on retainer for a landlord who operated multiple different properties across the city. Some were in nice areas, some were in not so nice areas, and I wasn't actually on retainer. We just joked that he gave me so much work that I might as well have been. Anyway, one day he asked me if I could fit some veneers on some old cabinets, so I tell him sure, get the address of the place that he wants me to visit, then headed over the very next morning to get it done. The tenant of the apartment that I was working on had been asking to vacate while the work was going. What made you choose Sam Riding for your members only stories? He helped Swamp Dweller with like creepypastas and stuff like that, and had reached out around the time that I was looking for like members only stuff via Twitter. And yeah, I got a nice little resume of, working with people, so we just kind of stick with those. I think that new bonus content, the one with the Western, Oh Death, is gonna be like 3 parts, just to really like flesh it out. Hello from Norway. Hello. Also, our thumbnail and artist Robin Mikalsen from Norway. He, I think I told you guys he like broke his ankle, but I guess it was worse than he thought. He had to get surgery on it. And so now he's at home recovering, thank goodness. Mojo Jojo. The tenant of the apartment I was working on had been asked to vacate while the work was going on, so I was free to do my thing, which for the most part consisted of applying a super strong adhesive to the cabinets before carefully fitting the veneers. I was about halfway through the job when I heard the key turning in the lock of the apartment's door. I waited until the tenant was within earshot, then called out an apology for the smell of the glue, which by that stage was still real strong and thick in the air. A second or so later, a woman of maybe 35 to 40 appeared in the doorway, and she looked at me with these big, wild eyes before asking me, "Where is it?" I was still halfway up a ladder at the time, so I'm halfway turned around on it when I ask her back, "Where's what?" Instead of answering me, she got real angry all of a sudden, stomped her way to the center of the room and told me, word for word, "Tell me, or I'll kick you off that effing ladder." I start feeling incredibly vulnerable after that, so I start climbing down real fast in the hopes that she was only bluffing, or if she does kick the ladder, then I'll have less of a fall and less chance to really hurt myself. I expected some kind of confrontation when I got to the ground, so I can feel my adrenaline start kicking in as I stepped off that bottom rung and turned to face her. But by the time I did, she was gone. Gone in the sense that she was no longer in front of me, and gone in the sense that whoever I had just been talking to was gone too. She had dropped to her knees, grabbed the open tube of adhesive. She dropped to her knees, grabbed the open tube of adhesive that I'd been using, and started to sniff up these deep huffs of the fumes into her nose. I must have asked her something like, "What the hell, lady?" and then reached down to take her by the shoulder to try to pull her away from it. But the second I touched her, she turned, and there was a totally different person looking back at me. The lady that walked into her apartment had been rude and confrontational, but the lady staring back at me now looked like she could have ripped out my liver, eaten it raw, and then asked for seconds. She screamed, "Get your effing hands off of me," shoved me, then went right back to huffing the tube of industrial-strength adhesive that I had sitting at the bottom of the ladder. And I'm serious when I say it was like a transformation. Her eyes were different, Still angry, but full of something else, too. She was like a mountain lion if a person got too close to her cubs, completely rabid, and even though she was small enough for me to fold up and toss. Give me the glue. Glue, glue. Glue. I love glue. She was like a mountain lion if a person got too close to her cubs, completely rabid, and even though she was small enough for me to toss, I got to admit that in that moment, I was goddamn terrified. She kept on huffing and puffing on that tube of glue, until all that rage just seemed to wash away from her. Then once she was done, and with the tube of glue still in her hand, she got up, walked over to her couch, and just plopped herself down and lay there looking all blissed out, like she didn't even know where she was. I remember telling her that I was going to get my stuff and put it in the van and get the hell out of there, and that she'd have to deal with her landlord if she wanted the rest of the cabinet veneers fitted. She just groaned at She just groaned at me and waved her arm as if to say, "Just go away already." And so I did. With her lying there like a zombie, I packed up my stuff and got the hell out of there before she decided to... With her lying there like a zombie, I packed up my stuff and got the hell out of there before she decided that she wanted to help herself to the rest of my gear. I left her with that tube of adhesive too. That stuff can be expensive, but there was no way that I was about to risk getting my face ripped off by trying to pull it out of her hand. So I pack up my gear, trying to carry as much as possible out to the van just in case the glue-sniffing tenant decided to steal something. I managed to get everything except my ladder under my arms, then on the way out, I started hearing this kid crying. There's no telling how long they'd been wailing, but I guess I just filtered it out into background noise while I was trying to keep from getting shredded by that crazy glue sniffer lady. But then when I step outside, I see where the crying was coming from. There was a car right there on the curb with both the driver's side and rear passenger door open. In the back there was a kid still strapped into the car seat, and it was screaming out, "Mommy, Mommy," over and over again. There were grocery bags sat in the pathway to the apartment too, like the woman had gotten home, saw the van and rushed inside after abandoning both her grocery bags and her kid. Maybe she just forgot that I was stopping by that day and rushed inside to check it out before bringing her kid and groceries inside. I'm not sure. But either way, she walked in, the smell of the... She loves glue, dude. Find yourself a girl that stares at you the way she sniffs glue. Yeah, glue sniffers anonymous. I've been there. I just like the attention though. They're like, "And Joel, what kind of glue have you been huffing?" Elmer's? Oh my god, Elmer's is great, isn't it? Everyone's like, yeah, oh, fucking Elmer's, oh, it's so good. What year was it, Joel? 1995? Oh, good fucking year. Do you use it to masturbate, Joel? Please tell me you do. Like, they're all like super stoked. Even the person who's like hosting the meeting is like really all about it. Fuck yeah, dude. Glue. But either way, she walked in, the smell of the adhesives hit her, and then that's all that she had in her mind. And that was the scariest thing of all. Way scarier than the prospect of getting my face chewed off by this crazy lady. This woman was such a degenerate drug addict that one little whiff of industrial strength adhesive and she was gone. Hell, she might have been Mother of the Year before she walked into that room, and then just boom, she was just right back to the bottom of the barrel, getting high all over again. I don't honestly know what her situation was, and I shouldn't speculate. I just hope that her kid ended up okay, because with a mother like that, life sure is going to be an uphill struggle. I just hope her kid ended up okay, because with a mother like that, life sure is going to be an uphill struggle. Hey, Drew C., take care. All right, Glue Sniffer. Story done. Story 4. Bill's struggling because she's stuck to the floor with glue. With glue, anything is possible. Mainly because you'll hallucinate. Oh, dun 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 dun. Psh, dun 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 dun. Wow, 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 wow. Remember glue sticks? It's so funny looking back on the days of just doing arts and crafts and bullshit like that, thinking about how sometimes you just didn't have the right stuff available to you, or somebody else had like the good glue stick, the tastier one. Why do I keep repeating sentences? Because I have to record, so I have to get the lines right so I can edit it together later. Boom, 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 boom. Glue. Tiny pieces of construction paper, they were bad. Just funny to think like how much fucking time we wasted just putting together little stupid fucking adhesives. Anyone who remembers The City of Soundville? It was an album that Cartoon Network released from the Powerpuff Girls. It was a really cool mix of songs used in the show. I don't remember that. But I feel like I do remember there was like a Powerpuff Girls... Wasn't there like a Powerpuff Girls song? Well, not theme song, but it was like almost like it was like their girl band K-pop type song. If you guys remember that, let me know, because I'm on the internet right now and I'm looking it up. I'm online looking up stuff. Powerpuff Girls. Was it that though? Am I imagining the shit? Now I feel like I don't even know what I'm talking about. Imagine having Alzheimer's and you get like caught on like a false memory. That would be the worst thing ever. Just trying to remember something that you kind of think happened. Oh. Yeah, it's this one. I think. I feel like as a kid I had this on repeat. Listen up! It's Bubbles and Blossom and the redhead.
Open your eyes and take in everything.
Fuck yeah. La la la, la la la, makes the world go round. La blah 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 la la, la la la, makes the world go round.
Open your ears and listen what the world has to say.
Evil clown. About to get hit with some fucking love. Oh shit, she's about to shoot him with fucking guitar love powers. La la la, la la la, makes the world go round.
You can't hurt me with the things that you do.
What you do?
Pick up dandelions and I'll give them to you.
Oh shit.
Puppy dogs, kitty cats,
Cats. Kitty cats. I'll fucking pick them up and give them to you. Makes the world go round. Fuck yeah, girls. Great job. Impressive, girls. Oh, Miss Cerebellum. Oh. It reminds you of the CeeLo Green chorus. F you, F you too. Yeah, similar drum line. Andrew Strong, thank you for the 20. Always making us laugh. I appreciate you. That's just a good feel-good song. Love makes the world go round. You know what also makes the world go round? The United States Navy. Patrolling international waterways. Making sure that your Amazon Black Dragon dildo and hemorrhoid cream makes it to your door in 2 days or less. Join the Navy today. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I found a job working for a property management company as their resident knuckle dragger. I'd move furniture, perform small DIY jobs, and occasionally I'd be called in to help clean out the apartment of some scumbag tenant who trashed the place either deliberately or through their sad excuse for a lifestyle. The single worst thing that I'd ever have was a rental. The single worst one I'd ever had was a small rental home on a real nice street in a real nice neighborhood. My employer had already called to warn me that it was bad. She'd only taken a few steps in before the smell turned her around, and she knew that it had to be bad in there, maybe even dead body bad, so she called me in to help the usual cleaning crew. I drove over, met up with Rosa, shout out to the nicest Filipina cleaning lady, and whoops. Am I a sailor? Yeah, I'm sailing. I'm doing this from our cruiser right now. The one with the big rail gun on it. La la love, la la love, la la love, makes that world go round. I drove over, met up with Rosa, shout out to the nicest Filipina cleaning lady, and then I went in first to make sure that there were no dead bodies inside. I knew next to nothing about the previous tenants at the time, only that they'd disappeared after going delinquent on their rent. I bust in, search all the rooms, and the place is absolutely disgusting, but I was confident that there were no corpses inside, so I told Rosa and the girls that it was safe to go inside. The only thing was, they need to put on as much safety gear as possible. Vaseline under their noses, the whole 9 yards, because inside one of those upstairs... Wait, Vaseline? I think they meant like Vicks. Or would it be Vaseline in this case? Does it just absorb the stink? Okay, Vicks, yeah. Vicks under the noses, the whole 9 yards. Because inside one of the upstairs bedrooms was a huge stack of used diapers. I don't mean a stack of as in 5 or 6 piled in a corner or something. I'm talking a pyramid-shaped pile that was at least waist-high, and I'm not exaggerating at all there. The division of labor was such that anything big and heavy that needed to be moved out, that was down to me. But anything that could be moved by hand, which included the diaper pile, was down to Rosa and the girls. So other than catching a glimpse of it, I didn't get to grips with the diaper pyramid, and I only heard Rosa and the girls making passing comments about it, one which was such a big baby. Now, me with my low IQ self-assumed... Jesus fuck. Now, me with my low IQ self assumed that we're talking about either the size of this kid's dumps or the sheer number of diapers in that pile. I guess that in my wildest, most disturbing dreams I never would have guessed exactly what that lady meant when she said, big baby. It was only afterwards when I talked to the employer that I actually realized what had been going on in that house. I mentioned something about being no place to keep a kid, and such a filthy, disgusting place and all. My employer was like, huh? Family? The rental had been a single occupancy, just this one lone dude, and the comment about the big baby, it's because those diapers were adult-sized. This guy had been filling those diapers, taking them off, and then just tossing them into the pile in the same freaking... What's wrong with that? At least he wore diapers. The guy had been filling those diapers, taking them off, and then just tossing them into the pile in the same freaking room that he slept in. And I don't know about you, but that's probably the most disgusting, disturbing thing I can possibly conceive of that doesn't involve some kind of gory violence. And I don't know about you, but that's probably the most disgusting, disturbing thing I can possibly conceive of. I don't know what happened to that guy, nor do I really want to know. I just hope that he's got some help, because Lord knows that his stinky butt needs it. Sweet. Love, 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 la la love, la la love. Make that work. Who's hyped for GTA 6? I am, honestly. Pretty stoked. I hope World War III doesn't pop off before then. I hope we can get... Yeah, and I hope it doesn't cost $100. That would suck. Alright. No shot. It's GG. I don't know. It just pisses me off. Like, just the concept of war is so stupid. Some random people in a room are like, alright, let's ruin everyone's lives for a long period of time. And tell them that it's patriotic to do so. No, motherfucker. I want to play Grand Theft Auto. Joel said war is bad. No, I didn't. Don't tell anyone I said that. Everybody's gonna say I'm a big pussy because I don't like getting blown up. Let me play a video game. War is just like video game. I could have saved Vicky. This is true. She just wanted to do some arts and crafts. I don't know. Actually, the more war movies I watch, the more I just kind of like despise how honorable and heroic they make it out to be. Because, like, any interview you ever fucking see from someone who's been to war, you know, that's why they don't talk about it. Because it's just, like, literally, I don't know, just, like, seeing the most fucking psychotic trauma you've ever imagined in your life. Friends that you've made just getting blown up or dying in front of you slowly or whatever it might be, or their lives ruined, or maybe they survived the process and then they get back and then they blow their head off or something, and then you hear about it later, and it's like then that trauma like extends with you for the rest of your existence. You know, it's just like all this shit that is just so fucking bad that no matter how you fucking wrap it, at least in the modern sense, there's no nobility to it. There's nothing to be gained, and there's no way you can like hold your head high after it. I know some people that like look forward to it. They like look forward to World War III, and it's just so weird to me. I rewatch shows that I never watched them before. Honestly, I'm kind of enjoying it again, I think. You get to watch The Office again. This all happened to my dad way back when I was a kid, so I have no memory of it whatsoever, and all I have to go on is what he's told me. But here goes. When I was younger, my mom and dad were in a kind of precarious financial situation, so we rented out the second floor of what was quite a large house to this older lady named June. Well, one day, she starts getting behind on her rent, and my parents understanding at first, but after a while, she started acting more and more squirrely, as they put it, and the relationship between her and my parents got worse and worse. At first, it was just excuses as to why she didn't have the rent. After that, she got more and more aggressive every time my dad brought the subject up. In the end, she owed 4 months' worth of rent when my parents finally decided that they couldn't have June living there anymore. It wasn't an easy decision either. They'd started off really liking each other, but the situation had just soured over time. So then one day, Dad goes to confront her and tells her that they want her to move out. Dad said that he was expecting quite a confrontation, but to his surprise, June said that she had the cash for 2 months of back rent and promised to get him the rest by the end of the following month. My dad said this was obviously a welcome turn of events, and he'd accepted June's invitation to come up to hear half of the house. Wait, what? My dad said that this was obviously a welcome turn of events, and he accepted June's invitation to come up to hear half of the house so she could give him the... What is the sentence? And he accepted June's invitation to come up to hear half of the house so she could give him the cash. Oh, her half of the house. My bad. If you haven't been in war deployed, you can't say it's the worst. I think I can say it's the worst. I don't think you need to go do it and potentially put yourself in the worst situation you could ever be in. And I don't really understand the counter argument there, as if though like we gotta do war. I mean, the whole point is peace. The whole point of like thing is to like be in peace. So it's just like, I don't know. The glorification of war is very fucking weird to me. Yeah, anybody who's ever served, it looks back and they're just like, it's the most disgusting shit ever. They don't, you might get some History Channel thing where like these men, they might, we play the horns and these brilliant men served their country and gave their lives and stuff. But then you interact with the people that went to it and they're just like, I don't want to talk about it. Like I don't even want to fucking have any remote visceral memory of those days, and nobody I can talk to and will bring back my friends or unscar my mind from seeing the shit that I've seen, or give me back my leg that's blown off, or like my internal organs, my bladder got exploded, so now I have to use this catheter. I don't know. It really is propaganda. All the fucking Medal of Honor games and shit that like salute. I don't know. Like I get it. I respect the people that went and did it, but I respect them to the extent that I don't want anyone to ever have to go do it. I don't even want them to have to go do it. I respect them the most, because I don't want them to have to go die, or come close to death, or see other people die, or have to kill anybody. You know what I mean? Like all that shit is just so abnormal. It's weird. A lot of war is based on underlying motives to have control over resources. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But it sucks because, like, to the population, you have to sell it as if it's this noble thing, or like, we have to fight Hitler too. If we don't do it, then our freedoms are at, they're going to destroy our way of life, or whatever the fuck it might be. And then most of it's just fucking inflating the economy, funneling money to like foreign theaters that you don't even know where that money's going or where it ends up or whatever the fuck. It's all just, there's just so much dirty dealings. So then, one day, Dad goes to confront her and tells her that they want her to move out. Dad says he was expecting quite a confrontation, but to his surprise, June said she had the cash for 2 months of back rent and promised to get him the rest by the end of the following month. My dad said that this is obviously a welcome turn of events, and he accepted June's invitation to come up to her half of the house so she could give him the cash. She asked him to wait on the landing, which was decorated as a kind of sitting area with a coffee table and a few chairs. Then she went off to get the money. Dad said that he waited for a little while. Then as time started to drag on, he got more and more impatient. He went off looking for June, but he found that she'd locked herself in her bedroom. Dad asks what's going on, but June says everything's fine, and she's just looking for the cash. Dad asks why she'd locked the door, but she repeats that she's looking for the cash and that everything is fine. Dad then waits some more, growing more and more frustrated, but the next time he calls June's name, she won't reply. Dad then puts his ear to the door because he can hear whispering, and he's almost certain that he hears her saying, "Help me, please. I'm trapped in here." It takes Dad a second or two to figure out what's going on, and he said at first he started asking her, "Are you okay in there? What's going on?" But again, she doesn't answer him. Dad said he was thinking, who the hell is she talking to? But then a minute later, it dawned on him. She's talking on the phone, and by the sounds of it, there's a good chance the person she's talking to is a 911 operator. Dad's suspicions were confirmed a few minutes later when he heard sirens in the street outside, and he went out to meet the cops to explain how it was all just some kind of false alarm. The cops said that June said that she'd been violently assaulted by the homeowner, i.e. my dad, but since that... cool, June. Not cool. Not poggers at all. The cop said June. Okay. The cop said that June said that she had been violently assaulted by the homeowner, i.e., my dad. But since that wasn't remotely true, he was only too happy to allow them entry into our home. Dad showed them up onto the landing, how there were no signs of any struggle or anything, and then directed them to the room where June was held up. Once she heard the cops were there, June opened the door, but only allowed them entry into the room and not my dad. Minutes later, the cops came out again, saying to Dad, "You're not under arrest right now, but she needs more medical attention," referring to June. My dad panics and once again explains to the cops that he didn't hit her, and that he's genuinely stunned at how she'd gotten hurt when just moments before she'd been fine. But when the cops are all chill with him and explain they know that he didn't hit... But then the cops are all chill with him and explain they know that he hadn't hit her because they can clearly see where this lady had been bashing her head with something blunt in the same place over and over again. The lady said the dad punched her. The lady said Dad punched her, and there was no way those wounds came from punches unless my dad was wearing a brass knuckle or something. And after talking to my mom, who had been sitting downstairs the whole time and had heard nothing, they let the EMTs take the lady to the hospital, then waited a few days before telling her that there was no case against my dad. They didn't charge her with a false report, which made my mom really angry, but it did give my dad enough leverage to get her gone once and for all. He said if she hadn't moved out by the end of the month, he was going to sue her for filing a false police report against him. Dad said that he wasn't even sure how that'd work, but he sure as hell scared that lady enough that she packed up and found somewhere else to live. I have a vague memory of this woman, but no memory of all the drama that unfolded. But my mom and dad say it was a particularly stressful time in their early parenting days. After all, they were sleeping in the same house as some obviously crazy woman with her kid who was still only like 3 or 4 years old at the time. And it kind of creeps me out to think about sometimes too, because if she'd do that kind of thing to herself, who knows what she would have done to us if the urge had suddenly taken her. W, no worries, good to see you. I think that's the weird thing about the WMD talk kind of stuff related to, well, even just like 9/11. If supposedly the story was true and it was like Saudi Arabian, Egyptian, I don't even know, like pilots or whatever, you know, why did we invade Afghanistan? I don't even know. I mean, I like presumably looking for the guy that coordinated, but it's like, then that extends to, WMDs or whatever in Iraq, which proved to be false. And I mean, that was the same news that pushed those, lies onto you for decades are the same ones that still operate today. You know what I mean? And in many fashions, like take marching orders directly from the Pentagon, which I find just even stranger that people continue to trust it. And then, then you get to Obama's era and it was like, we went from the 2 Iraq and Afghanistan and under Bush, and then Obama, it was like 5 additional Middle Eastern theaters with like the drone striking, what was it, like Sudan, Syria, Libya. There was like quite a few additional like places that we like destabilized, all in the name of like fighting terror, you know. He wins 2 Nobel Peace Prizes for whatever fucking reason. I don't know, dude. It just seems like, and then it just continues on, you know. And there's always going to be, if there's like a reason that we can like continue to sell weapons and continue that trade, we will think of a reason to send our people to war. And just, I don't know, or do war via proxy, which is even sadder, you know, that their people have to die because we just kind of deem it as such. I don't know, it's very weird. Yeah, I don't know anything about like the proxy sort of process and like Soviet, like fighting the Soviets back then, because I know like a lot of like the creation of Al Qaeda kind of came from that proxy, and like strange abstract connections to Osama bin Laden back then. And there's a lot of just like weird dark underbelly stuff that and it's just so strange. It's like we all just kind of have, like, when it comes to really anything that's like a major event on the news, we all have like some like conflicting narrative with one another. There's no like real unifying one, or like the unifying one that we're told. Everyone just, I mean, like at the end of the day, you can tell like the American population or anybody's population just wants to go about their day and not be bothered. And a lot of the times we'll kind of like, even ourselves, jump through like various forms of cognitive dissonance just to like feel that there's something above us that's in control, that doesn't have like some sort of malevolent intentions, you know, or that has our best interests in mind, when in reality the only people that can bring you security in your life is really just yourself and your loved ones. Other than that, all of it is just sort of like a made up narrative in your head. I don't know. Just sucks that like war at this point is just like so wildly incentivized. Our defense budgets are fucking nuts, sending hundreds of billions of dollars overseas to just, and there's no motivation to stop that, you know what I mean? There's no motivation to halt said war, because they will just find a new way to funnel money somewhere else, or find a new conflict or whatever it is. All right. Story 6. I know. I think that's what scares me, is at the end of the day, it really is just comes down to those 3-letter agencies operating essentially independent from any sort of government oversight, and whether or not they are able to integrate maybe one of their guys into positions of power, which is no doubt, you know, their tendrils are ever reaching. But it's weird. Because it's like but then the argument that most of us like end up falling on is strange identity politics of like left versus right. But at the end of the day, you know, that position in the presidency is like, it's transient. You know what I mean? Like it's, wait, why? All right, yeah, just don't engage, Hawk. If there's somebody that, like, it's just not point in having a conversation if we're just gonna argue. But I don't know. That's what it seems to me. It's like the president is just this sort of transient, you know, ever-moving character. whenever there's like entities external from them that are like have been ongoing for nearly 100 years at this point. Anyways, this is the last story we got here. I think, yeah. So I'll be right back. All right, I'm back with the glue. Oh fuck, Elmer Fudd. Whoops. Sniffed a little too much. Ooh. Hold on, I gotta do a top off. And then you go into the bathroom with like a glue stick. Oh. Alright, anyways. Let's read this last story. It's not too long. Elmer got that good. I am the glue of this community, yeah. Many years ago now, back when I was in college, I worked as the property manager at a 100-unit apartment complex here in Charleston. It was a pretty awesome job, in that I had all my rent covered by the company, and the only truly taxing things they expected of me consisted of filling out paperwork and scheduling the maintenance workers. The place had a pretty even mix of tenants. There were a lot of college kids, along with a bunch of post-grad singles and roommates and the occasional young family, too. But there was one guy that I always felt kind of sorry for. He didn't seem to have any family, and I think that he might have been on disability, but he kept to himself, and the most I ever saw of him was when he was walking to a nearby convenience store around once or twice a week. Around June of my second year there, I got a call from one of the tenants in his building, complaining that there was a funky odor coming from his apartment. I went in, and it smelled kind of like someone had puked in the hall, and seeing as there was a handful of college kids in that building, that was actually a pretty depressing and common occurrence. We had the carpets shampooed the next day, then the cleaners used a bunch of that industrial strength shaken vac that always takes the place. We had the carpet shampooed the next day. Then the cleaners used a bunch of that industrial strength shaken vac that always makes the place smell like a hotel. Once that was done, I honestly figured that'd be the end of it. But then I think that it was maybe 3 or 4 days after, I get calls from half a dozen other tenants saying that the smell had only gotten worse. I remember being sat in my car, trying to figure out just what the hell was going on when suddenly my cell phone started buzzing. Remember the sickly-looking loner that I just told you about? The only one that... The one who I only saw walk over to the store every so often? Well, the person calling me turned out to be that guy's daughter, calling all the way over from Michigan. Her dad hadn't answered his phone in a few weeks, and she was getting kind of worried about him, and could I go over and check on him to make sure that he just lost his cell phone while on D&D or whatever. I said that I'd oblige her, then head over to his building again just to do that. As I'm walking, I put 2 and 2 together. It's summer, there's a bad smell in the building, and my sickly-looking loner hadn't been heard from a while. God damn it. And my sickly-looking loner hadn't been heard from in a while. I immediately called my on-duty maintenance guy and told him about the call, and he too thinks that we're both about to have a really bad day. We met up, walked up to the guy's floor, and sure enough, the smell hits us like an absolute freight train. Then, when we managed to get the door of the loner's apartment open, the smell is considerably stronger. Dude, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. I just can't fucking... You believe in me? Thank you. I appreciate it. Binging my videos within a few weeks. Appreciate you, Freddie. Thank you. What's been your favorite one? It's fine if you want to I don't know why you would unsubscribe just because I'm not like in favor of war. That's like such a weird thing to unsubscribe from, but hey. That is your prerogative, my dude. Andrew is strong with the 5 says, so any advice for someone who's trying to lose weight? I feel stumped and defeated. You just gotta move more, eat less, count your calories. There's a free app called MyFitnessPal that helps you track your calories and your macros or your protein, carbs, and fats in that based on the foods that you're eating, and you can like measure out really specifics on it or whatever. That's probably the best way to do it, is to figure out what best way to do it is just like figure out what your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate, how many calories you should be intaking or whatever to maintain your weight, and then subtract like 500 or so. Well, that guy, I don't even know what you're talking. What's my beliefs? What argument are you trying to pose, like, in opposition to mine? If you just said what you want to say, but I feel like you're talking. I don't care, man. I don't even want to engage with you on this one. I mean, if there's something specific you're upset about, but me saying war is not good is not like a very controversial fucking thing to say. What belief am I pushing that's as fact? Just say what it is. Stop saying that ambiguously. Say the specific thing. Jesus Christ. I see that happen all the time in chat where someone's mad, but they don't say what they're mad about. They just sit there and be mad. It's so fucking annoying, dude. Then, when we manage to get the door of the loner's apartment open, the smell is considerably stronger. We knocked on the door a few times, and to this day I'm not entirely sure. We knocked on the door a few times, and to this day I'm not entirely sure why we did that. I guess it was just one final grasp at home before we had to deal with the reality in front of it. But when we got no answer, I opened the door and all we could hear was the non-stop buzz of all the flies in the apartment. I immediately slammed the door, walked out of the building with the maintenance guy behind me, and we slowly figured out a plan of action. Then within the hour, the cops were on the scene, closely followed by the fire department and eventually the county coroner. Apparently the guy died from some sort of natural causes probably 3 to 4 weeks earlier, and by that time, the temperature was regularly in the 90s outside, so in an apartment with no AC, it was cooking this guy at about 100 to 110 degrees. He was practically a puddle by the time we got to him. The cost to recover the apartment was close to $30,000. It was stripped down to the studs. Every thread of carpet, every appliance, every cabinet, every hunk of drywall, it all got torn out and replaced. That whole ordeal is how I found out that there was an actual specialist. That whole ordeal is how I found out that there are actually specialists. That whole ordeal is how I found out that there are actually specialist cleaning companies who specialize in the cleaning of human remains, and I also learned that they don't come cheap. Even after that, there were always fucking Christ. Even after that, there was always a faint odor in the apartment, and trying to get it filled again was an ordeal all unto itself. Alright. Dead body found. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. EST, and there are super fun live streams on Sundays and Wednesday nights. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let'sReadOfficial, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks offered for the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories in big compilations, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the description all down below. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, love, 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 la la love. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, love makes the world go round. On your way to grad school, it's crazy. I understand that guy was mad at me, and then I asked him to say specifically what he was upset about or what belief I was pushing, or, false belief. Because I feel like I was just saying the subjective, perspective towards war, and then he didn't say what specifically he was mad about. Oh, there it is. The thing is, when you say war is for nothing and everything is for nothing, when we all that was over there have lost people over, that really hurts. I guess you just have to dig into what, like a war, you know what I mean? Like, I know it would hurt to find out that your government is sending people to die in a war doesn't match up with the war that they sold you on, but a lot of soldiers do realize that shit. A lot of soldiers come home and they have to ask themselves, what was the point of me going over to Syria? What was the point of me going over to, guard a poppy field in Afghanistan? You know what I mean? Or guard an oil field or whatever it might be. Like, what was my purpose over there? And people die, people have died as they've done those, gone through that process, and it's really fucking sad. And I think it's been, since 9/11, like, it's been over 20 years, the American people and the majority of the people across the world realize that most of those wars were fucking stupid, and we don't really want to continue doing them. We don't want to continue pushing people to continuously die in foreign nations and sending our men to go die. And I have respect for everyone that decides to go give their lives for that process, but I respect them even more by asking them to not do it. I respect them even more by saying that they shouldn't, or look into it, prior to going and doing that. It's not me saying that they died for nothing, but I think you have to understand that sometimes the government looks at you as like a fucking number, nothing more, just more meat for the fucking grinder. And they'll sit there and shake your hand and send someone home with a flag and a nice little medal or whatever posthumously, but they don't give a fuck about you, dude. They can't give a fuck about you. It's impossible. There's so much blood on their hands, so many bodies stacked, that eventually you just become disconnected from the reality of it all. I don't know, man. Your brother served 3 terms in Afghanistan and Iraq. He straight up said the government just pushes the kids to their death. Yeah, you know, like what, like young. I mean, I cannot imagine for a fucking second, 18 years old with a smile on my face and a helmet, and I'm like, this is gonna be. I'm gonna be a man at the end of this. It's like you end up coming back with life-ending, you know, life-altering injuries and the inability to sleep and ongoing nightmares and PTSD and a drinking habit and all sorts of other fucked up shit. You know, you put a gun in your mouth. You know what I mean? It's fucking sad. That's a fucking scary story. It's fucking really sad. Anyways, I say these things because I care about the soldiers. I have no disrespect for them at all. They work their asses off for people that don't care about them. All right. Anyways, you guys rock. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.